Hello and welcome to Shop Talk with Dan the Man. In today's video we're going to review this bad boy, the Ryobi wood splitter. Stay tuned to find out more. Hello, if you're new to this channel, my name is Dan Shannon. I enjoy woodworking as a hobby and being out in the shop. On this channel, dive deep into my shop as we explore tools and tool reviews, as well as chatting about everything related to woodworking. If this grabs you by the tool belt, please subscribe to my channel if you want more videos like this. Welcome back. In today's video, we're going to show you this, the Ryobi 5-ton RYAC 490 splitter. Now this thing is a great machine. I did about 3/4 already with it. I've had it for just over a year now. It's worked great. And so yeah, let's dive in some features right now. Give you a tour of this splitter. Okay, so you'll notice I have the splitter up on some logs just to bring it up more waist level so you're not constantly bending down. So let's go over some features. So this here is your wedge. So once you put your log on, of course, it goes from the backstop plate and slides towards the wedge. You'll notice here at the front, you get your hydraulic. This also doubles as a handle when you go to pick it up. Same on the back. And you'll notice here there's they called it a bleed screw, so you have to loosen this before you use this machine. If you don't, you'll have hydraulic pressure build up in the unit itself and you could damage the hydraulic. So you want to make sure you loosen that. There's a little rubber gasket on it, so you just give it a couple turns just until you see that it's open and the machine will run freely. So as we head down to the bottom, you'll notice these two handles. This has wheels on the back, so you can cart it around by tipping it upright and using those just like you would a dolly. So that's a great design, Ryobi. You did that. All right, let's venture towards the back part. So this here is your back plate that grabs the log and pushes it forward. Of course, this is your track. And if we go to the very back, we'll notice there's a plate that goes down. So there's a pin, cotter pin, that slides through this when you're not using it, just for safety so no one can use the splitter itself. But this has to be engaged, as well as the side button I'll show you here, in order to power on the machine. So you have to hold it here and press this down at the same time to give you your power. And that's just the safety feature, so they know, Ryobi knows that your hand is not on any part of this when the log goes to split. So yeah, this basic idea of this machine and kind of the capabilities. Of course, down here is your motor that you have in your plug. This also has a fuse. I believe it's right here. Yep. So if it trips, you just hold this. This is your fuse to release the tripped breaker. And then if we go to the other side, not much has changed. Pretty much the same thing on the other side. And on the back here, of course, it's your bolts for your hydraulic. There is on the top as the bleed screw. You can check the oil. So you tip this up all the way on its end and you loosen this all the way, and there's a dipstick in there so you can check your hydraulic oil to make sure it's full. All right, there's some features. Let's dive into the use. All right, we're going to do the hands-on of this machine, show you kind of how it splits. It's very straightforward. You line up your log, make sure it's roughly centered, and if there's a bevel edge at all, you want to put it on the side where it's splitting, not on the back side. Although this does have a slight grade, make sure your grade is to the bottom, not the top. So just slide it up to your wedge piece, and then how this is run is, like I said before, you got to do your button and the back at the same time. I have the safety helmet on. I recently, before I start this video, you always have to protect yourself and think about safety. I did have an issue with this splitter about 2 weeks ago. I had a log. I was splitting some red oak, and it bound at the wedge side. There was a knot dead center, and this back part was wet, and this here was wet. So the log was wet, and this backstop was wet. So what had happened was, I didn't have a hard hat or a face shield on because I've split about 500 cord, never ever had an issue. So I was fine. Got my steel toe boots on in case you have a log that rolls down and takes you on the toes. So it's good to be safe. I got gloves on, and long sleeves. I wouldn't wear shorts in case the log came down and kind of ran along your leg. So you want to make sure you're well clothed when you use a splitter, and try not to have too baggy of clothing. There's buttons on here I could tie up, but with both hands here, you're no longer able to put your hand anywhere in the device that's has the power applied. So what happened, back to my accident, I was turning it on like so. And I'll just stop it there. So if you hold the back, it holds this bunt plate. So what had happened was, I was like so, and didn't have a hard hat on, didn't have a face shield, and for some reason this kicked up and went straight back and caught me right in the face. Yeah, it wasn't good. I got a photo I'll put there of my injury. But yeah, I'm lucky, very lucky. But from here on out, I decided to get, even though I've never had any issues, I decided to get a hard hat and a face shield. It's better than nothing. At the end of the day, anything's better than nothing, safe-wise. So yeah, this came back and shot back this way. I've had them split and go left to right all the time, but I've never had a log actually ricochet up and then slide backwards. And of course, this was full tonnage, so we had 5 ton of build-up pressure when it shot back, so it went back like a bullet. So things could have been very different for me. Had I not moved out of the way, I backed up quickly, and it just caught me in the face. So yeah, let's go back to using this. It's a great machine. It'll work well for you. Just remember about safety. Everything's about safety in the shop. Every tool you use, make sure you're safe. Same with outside using the splitter. Make sure you're safe. So let's continue on and see how this splits. So I'll have my hard hat on, got my face shield, and press the button. And of course you can see that it stopped when it needed to, and sometimes you have to pull it apart depending on how long the log is, and then you just, like, this has a bad edge, so you can tell. You can either take a chainsaw and cut that off flush, but I definitely wouldn't split having it up like this. That wouldn't work at all. So you want to turn it around and then line it up. You can split it that way. In my case, I'm gonna trim that up and make sure it's a bit safer to split before I go ahead. But the other piece, I can grab the other piece, and this one's actually quite nice to split. You can tell again, there's an angle on the edge. You want to make sure that angle's in the front. You have a nice flat block to work with on the back side. Just line it up. You might want to rotate it a little bit. Always make sure your back end is cradled in this kind of divot. A lot of times, of course, you've seen there, had a branch piece that was part of that. You don't want anything tipping up or tipping away. You always want to make sure it's nice and flat in that groove. That's what it's intended for, to keep everything straight. As it's pressurizing, it's not going to have any issues. So we'll put that through. I'll show you another pass and how that looks. So once again, push the back down, and there is a cotter pin like I showed you earlier. That would be removed. Push that down, press the button. It's easy as that. So you can make them smaller if you want to cut them smaller than that. You know, this is a good size. Sometimes for your wood stove, you might want an overnight piece, they call it, so a bit bigger log. But for drying purposes, you know, a good size. Make the airflow go around it and dry it out real good. So yeah, let's do some final thoughts now. So for some final thoughts of this wood splitter, you might want to look at your manual for operation. There is some key components there, safety protocols. I went over a few when we were doing the hands-on. Also, I can't stress enough that bleeder screw. That's very important. It could wreck and damage your hydraulic. It won't work at all. If you keep that tight and you use the machine, over time it's going to destroy the hydraulic and the machine won't work. So once you're done for the day, of course, unplug it and tighten up the screw again. But just remember about this screw, that's very important. Overall, I'm very happy with this machine. It does the job that I needed it to do. Just, of course, the safety issue that I had happen. I'm not going to blame the machine for that. I'm going to say that's more of a fluke in the fact that all the conditions lined up. There was a knot in the front. It was wet here. It was wet on the log. There was a slight angle. It just combination of everything made for a dangerous situation. So just keep an eye on it. Always check your wood. If you do notice you're pressurized and this log starts to move, even the slightest, you know, raising on the back end, stop the machine immediately, adjust your log to a different position, and then reapply the force, because you never want any ricochet to happen. And of course, keep your front clear. If you have kids, I got 2 kids, you don't want them playing anywhere around in case the logs separate, and I've seen them go 2 to 3 feet in either direction, especially in the fall when you get a little cold air. It cools down the wood and it pops. They call it pops apart real easy, and sometimes it launches the wood. So just be careful with this machine. But all in all, I would highly recommend the Ryobi model that I have here. So if you enjoyed this video, you can click on this one here. Got more content on my channel. I'm sure you'd be interested. Give me a thumbs up, like, subscribe, and ring that bell for more notifications. And have yourself a great day and be safe.